had your anniversary forgotten? Put your hand up, all right? The rest of you are still liars. Boy, a couple just got both their hands up, so I don't know if that means we forgot it in the bulletin recently, or if you both forgot it, you both forgot it. Well, it can't be any worse than, this is probably 3 years ago. I can't tell you who they were, but a couple came to church here, and I guess it would be the wife came in first, and I said, "Happy anniversary." She looked at me and she goes, "Is that today?" So she goes off, and I said, "Yes, it's today." So in comes the husband. A few minutes later, he must have dropped her off at least, and I said, "Happy anniversary." He goes, "Is that today?" Yeah, so you need to come to church just to realize when your anniversary is. But if you've ever had your birthday forgotten, your anniversary forgotten, some special occasion forgotten, maybe you've been left here at church by your parents because there are multiple cars. I mean, these have happened. You know what it's like to feel forgotten. It's not a great feeling, trust me. You feel like, man, do I matter to anyone? I ask that because the song they just sang, it saddens me as a child of God, and blame is to be put on my shoulders as well as anyone else. It's sad to me that our Maker and our Savior and our Redeemer, our God, our friend, our everything, pleads to be remembered. I mean, can you imagine being responsible for giving somebody everything and they just, "Oh, I forgot about you, God. I didn't even think about you today." Or "I forgot today was," that's a sad thing for all of us. So God just wants to be remembered. He wants to be understood. People don't realize that about God. Sometimes they think of Him as this cruel dictator in the sky. He said in Psalm, I believe 14, that He looked down upon the earth to see if there were any that did understand. He looked down to see if there were any that did seek Him. And He concluded, there is none. How tragic for God, the giver of life, to say nobody even wants to know about me, to get to know me, to see who I am. It's a sad thing for us to consider. Happy birthday, Julie Smith. I noticed today's your big birthday. You are not forgotten. So in case your dad didn't say happy birthday, we just got it in there. So I'm sure he did, right, Mr. Smith? Yeah. Amen. So we're going to start off today a little different. Perhaps you're one of the 2 million people that have seen this short little video clip on YouTube. It's really interesting. We're going to go ahead and just look at it quick as an introduction to our message. Make sure no one was sleeping here. Anybody see this before? A few of you. All right. Now just as you're watching this, look at the two, the beast and the little girl, and contrast the size of their heads. Yeah. Just look at the size. Now, I'm thinking that this animal could probably easily, if there weren't glass in between them two, probably fit that girl's head in his mouth. That's how big this beast looks. And even though you want to reach out and touch that mane, right? Doesn't it look just fluffiness? I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that beast without some type of protective glass in between, especially to see that. Right? But this was in New Zealand. Some cute little girl kissed the glass, and the lion didn't appreciate that. But we're going to talk about lions today. I think it's an amazing creature. I think it's a beautiful creature. I would want nothing to do with it if I saw one anywhere outside of a zoo. These people who go out to safaris and get out of their cars, or try to hang out in the African wilderness, I think they're crazy. These creatures are to be respected. They're big animals. As amazing as it was to see this little girl and this big beast interact, what a frightening thing it would be to interact with a creature of that size without any glass in between you. To see a cat like that go up and start to move its massive legs with its big claws, I think that would be a frightening scene. On average, a male lion can stand 4 feet tall. It can measure 9 feet long with its tail and weigh over 400 pounds. So we're dealing with a big, big creature. I cannot imagine what it would be like to be startled by one. I was in the parking lot here. How many of you know that our local killdeer finally, I can't say gave birth, the eggs were hatched, all right? The little killdeer are running around now. They're super cool. I like the bird a lot. It's a beautiful bird. Well, he decided to set up camp in the parking lot over here, and we used that parking lot, and some of you kids found out that they were over there and you were trying to pester them. Don't do that. The mother bird will probably eventually get annoyed with you and go after you. So I've been watching it as I come, and every Sunday morning I park there and I get here first, so I was seeing if it hatched the eggs, or the eggs hatched. And I went over there a few weeks ago and I looked and I got closer because they're pretty well camouflaged in the stones, and I noticed they were gone. And I looked up and there they were. They were little ones, were just motoring around. I mean, they're really cool cats, or birds, I guess in this case. And all of a sudden, I heard this. It was the mother. Like, she was still not happy that I was over there, but you would have thought a vulture, a pterodactyl of some size was coming in. The way I jumped, I'm glad no one was watching because it was embarrassing, but I'm just awesome. I started to run like a little schoolgirl because I thought this pterodactyl was about to take me out. It's a little bird, If I was startled by a little killdeer, I can't imagine walking down a path and having a lion come out of the bush and roar at me. I was taking a walk, to remind you of how startled I would be. I was taking a walk this past week in my neighborhood and doing my thing, walking the sidewalk, and I see animal life where I live, a lot of deer, a lot of other, very harmless creatures, but I saw the animal I fear the most on my walk, which is uncommon on sidewalks. And I caught him peripherally. You know what I'm referring to? Snakes. Now, it was only a gardener snake, but as far as I'm concerned, gardener or boa constrictor, there's no difference. I don't care if it's... I assume every snake is poisonous. Every snake can wrap around you and suffocate you. I hate snakes. In these animal shows, we cheer for every animal that goes up against a snake. Every animal. I don't like crocodiles, but the one time a crocodile and an anaconda were going at it, the whole family was, crocodile! Croak, croak, croak! And he got him. I mean, it was good. It was good. I hate snakes so much that you could put a person dressed in a Tom Brady uniform with a New England Patriots hat on against the snake, and I would root for the New England Patriot fan. That's how much I hate snakes, all right? But I saw this little itty-bitty snake, and I jumped. I mean, like I had saw a boa constrictor, I'm just walking, and I jumped. Now, I can't imagine seeing a cat of this size out where there's nothing to protect you. I don't care if I had a gun or, that mace that they make for chasing bear away. I would not want anything to do with it. But today we're going to talk about 3 men who came face to face without any glass in between. Hebrews chapter 11, verse number 32, "And what shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, of David also, and Samuel, and of the prophets," verse 33, "who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises," what a great phrase, "stopped the mouths of lions." We're going to talk about men who possessed not the lion whispering skills or the brute strength to survive an encounter with a lion. We're going to talk about men who had the faith necessary to survive an encounter with a 400-pound, maybe more, maybe less, an animal with tremendous teeth, tremendous claws, a predator. They were able to do that through faith. Lions can exert almost nearly 700 pounds of pressure with their jaws. They can snap open 11 inches wide. They have 3-inch canine teeth. These creatures are nothing to mess with. I'm not sure any man should be able to beat or stop the mouth of a lion, but we're going to talk about 3. 3 in the Bible who did that. 3 who didn't just stop the mouths of little kittens. 3 who didn't just stop the mouths of domestic cats. I'm not sure I would approach a little house cat to try to stop their mouth. Cats can be, any of you have cats that can be vicious? These guys, or gals in some cases, they have claws. I'm not interested in them. But we're not talking about a little cat or a little kitten, little domestic cat. We're talking about big cats. We're talking about wild lions. And as we talk about their faith, as always, we need to ask ourselves, how is our faith? Since the day we found it at Calvary, since the day it was birthed in the empty tomb, has it grown? Has it increased in size? To the point where we need to ask ourselves this question: do we have big cat faith or little cat faith? Do we have the faith necessary to face the big cats of life, or is our faith only big enough to address the little calico cat that may be in your living room? Turn to Judges chapter 14. The first Bible character, his name is Samson. Let me remind you what we just read in Hebrews chapter 11. The author says, "And what shall I more say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon, of Barak, and of Samson." Samson, a man that I have not necessarily ever attributed with much faith, but the New Testament reveals something the Old Testament does not. Here in Judges 14, the story of Samson is really at its beginning stage. He has begun to experience his strength. He's begun to move in the camp of Dan, but nothing has really been done yet to indicate he's that supernaturally gifted. And here in Judges 14, he has an eye problem, and his eye wandered to a daughter of Timnath of the Philistines, not an Israelite. He wants to marry her. Samson's parents are not really keen on that idea, but they eventually give in and will support the marriage. Verse 5, Judges chapter 14. "Then went Samson down, and his father and his mother to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him." Now we'll stop right there and make it clear to you that this was not a little killdeer. This was not a little gardener snake. This is a young lion. He may not be that 400-pound big-maned creature, but this was a young lion who came out of nowhere, was not curious, was not defending or protecting his pride in any way. This was a lion that roared against Samson. He saw in Samson, I don't know if it was the long hair, but he saw in Samson something he wanted. Maybe he thought this was a wildebeest, an upright wildebeest with all that hair. But he said, "I want to get this guy. I'm going to roar against him, and I'm going to attack him." This lion was interested in consuming him. Verse 6, "And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand." He didn't have a gun. He didn't have any type of chemical. He didn't have fire. He had nothing in his hand, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done. The Holy Spirit is a very mysterious component of the Trinity. I think it would be foolish for any of us to assume we understand the workings of the spirits, the Spirit, the in and out of it. Very mysterious, but this much I know. The Holy Spirit will not make anybody do anything. The Holy Spirit will not make anybody not do something. The Holy Spirit will not come upon somebody and overpower them. Individual free will is necessary for the Holy Spirit to come upon anyone or in anyone. That much I know. So for the Spirit of God to move mightily in Samson's life, to come upon him as it did in verse number 6, then I have to conclude that Samson had some element of faith. In fact, the New Testament tells us he must have had much more faith than we give him credit for. He didn't cut his hair yet, so obviously he believed that what he was told by his parents when the angel said, "Don't cut your boy's hair because it will be a gift of his and he'll have great strength." He obviously believed that. He wasn't out drinking wine as he wasn't allowed to be drinking wine. So he believed in this vow, this promise that he was given, which means there's some faith there. The story of Samson may appear at first glance to be a story of a man who took his supernatural power for granted. But the reality is it's a story of a man who did possess faith. The book of Judges may paint the picture of a man taking his gifts and his relationship with God casually. But the book of Hebrews paints the picture of a man who handled his special relationship and gift with God faithfully. Now we can all agree, if you know the story of Samson, far from perfect man. We can all agree that he had an eye problem, that it wandered to the ladies. His heart was drawn to women. We know he was not perfect, but we have to conclude he was a man of faith nonetheless. The book of Hebrews tells us so, and we see here the Holy Spirit working mightily in his life. Here a young lion roars against him. It startles him. It comes out of the bush maybe. It comes out behind a tree and it roars against him. And we don't see Samson doing what so many of us do when life roars against us. We don't see Samson running away. We don't see Samson cowering in fear. We see some resolve. We see with his eyes some focus, some spiritual focus, that God has given him the strength to prevail and to rend this lion like he would rend a kid. Just take this beast and toss it around and kill it like he would a little goat or a little lamb. How is your faith? Do you have big cat faith or little cat faith? Do you have the faith necessary so that when life rises against you and roars at you, you're able to stand and stare into it in the eyes and know the power of God will help you to combat what life has thrown your way? Or do you cower in fear and do you run away and do you conclude that there's no way you'll get through this, there's no way you'll be able to handle it? The weak in faith run when life roars against him. The weak in faith are afraid to face life's challenges. They do everything they can to avoid the reality that life is not easy, that life is difficult. The weak in faith do everything possible to avoid getting that diagnosis. They'll put off the doctor's appointment because they don't want to hear what the doctor may say. They'll put off the appointment for this because they're afraid of what it may conclude, and they're just not ready to deal with it today. I'm not sure I can put up with that thought. I'm not sure I can deal with that adversity. I'm not sure I can know the truth of the matter. That's the weak in faith. Fearful, timid. It's one thing to have your faith get you through a bumpy flight. It's another thing to have your faith get you through a fight with cancer. Life will roar against all of us. Do you know statistically 4 of every 10 of us will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in our lives? That's a high statistic. And so this idea that I hope I don't get it, I'm going to do everything I can to not get it, the reality is most of us, I should say not most of us, many of us, will be diagnosed with it. I personally have taken the approach, not if, but when. Will my faith be ready? When life roars against me, will I run like I do from a little snake, or will I stand strong and face it with the power of God, inviting the Spirit of God? Many of us will have an autoimmune disease roar against us at some point in our lives. Many of us will have anxiety or depression roar against us at some point in our lives. Some of us will have a very rare disease roar against us at some point in our lives. Most of us will have death roar against us at some point in our lives. The death of a parent, the death of a sibling, the death of a friend, the death of a child even. Those are the moments that life roars against us. It doesn't meow. On a daily basis, we deal with meows. You know what a meow is? You get a flat tire. Meow. You get a bill that's overdue or you can't pay it this week. Meow. Right? You go to work and somebody's a little difficult to deal with. Meow. But when your doctor says, sit down, that's a roar. That's when everything else doesn't matter. You know what Samson did not care about when the lion roared? He did not care about the girl he was going to marry. He cared about surviving the encounter so he could get married. When we're diagnosed or we're hit with things or we get the phone call, life just rises up and looks into us and we see fangs and we see claws and we hear that roar. Where's your faith? Is it ready? Will you handle that? Because your faith, your level of faith will determine the level of intervention from God. Little faith, no intervention from God. Big faith, big intervention from God. Our faith moves God. Our unbelief does nothing to motivate God's intervention in our life. The mighty in faith see challenges as an opportunity for God to do His mightiest works. The strong in faith have no hesitation when faced with challenges. They engage, believing in the power of God's strength. Turn to 1 Samuel chapter 17. I say number 1, Samson had the faith to engage the advancing young lion. He did not run, he did not flee, he did not fear. Number 2, we're going to look at David here in the book of 1 Samuel, and he had the faith to ensue the abducting old lion. Each of these stories have different circumstances. All 3 are tied together by the faith of these great heroes. And in Hebrews chapter 11, you may recount that short list of men that the author lists, Barak, Gideon, Samson. He also referred to David. And in 1 Samuel chapter 17, it is David's greatest hour. This is the Valley of Elah, right? This is what everyone knows David for. Philistines on one side, Israelites on the other side, Goliath on one side, King Saul on the other side, all these excited Philistines, all these fearful Israelites. And David comes in, the son of Jesse, the little shepherd boy delivering cheeses. He's a pizza delivery boy. And he comes in and he sees this battle and he says, "What are you all afraid of?" And he gets all excited and he says, "I can take out this giant." And word gets to Saul saying, "Hey, there's some young ambitious kid. He doesn't know anything, but he at least has the courage to go out there. He's your only option." So King Saul brings him in and they talk. And in verse 32, David said to Saul in 1 Samuel 17, "Let no man's heart fail because of Goliath. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine." How comforting. Thank you very much, young man. And Saul said to David, "Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." Now look what David says to Saul. What confidence. There isn't arrogance in this statement. There's confidence. He says, "Saul, King Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. Oh, and guess what I did? I went out after him and smote him. And I delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him." Verse 36, "Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God." David said, moreover, verse 37, this is where you see his faith, "The Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine." And however David said it, it got Saul's attention because Saul says, "Go." But he didn't say, "Go in the power of thine might." He said, "Go and the Lord be with thee." Saul recognized that in David was not this unbridled confidence. He recognized that in David there was faith in God and that his strength came from God. So he says, "Go, but go and the Lord be with thee." David's big cat experience was different than Samson's big cat experience. In Samson's account, you have a young lion. In David's account, you have an old lion. In Samson's account, this lion comes up and threatens Samson. In David's account, you got this old sneaky lion. He's smarter than that young guy. And he goes, when David's not looking, and takes a young lamb, and off he goes. And the story, I can only imagine David, who's a shepherd. He knows his outdoor gig, and he hears a little bleating of the lamb, and he turns, and he sees the tail. He sees the tail of this lion. Now, if I'm out there, I say, "Enjoy. Hope he fills you up. Let's go. Everybody else, let's go." But not David. David immediately springs into action. I can just see him. He probably grabs that tail or grabs on that lion. But whatever he does, he gets the lamb out of his mouth. See, he's pursuing him. This is not a man who's ready for the challenge. This is a man who goes and finds the challenge. He wrestles the lamb out of the mouth, and that lion didn't like that. Like my dog, if you take something from my dog without his permission, you're in trouble. So instead of my dog, he's really small. I can whack him and send him away. This lion, David had to catch him by the beard. And they fight, and he kills the thing. Different story. Same faith. David was fearless. He was fierce. Why? Because of his faith in his big God. He said, "The Lord delivered me out of the paw of the lion." So again, I have to ask you, how is your faith? Especially moms and dads, do you have the faith necessary to go fight the big cat? Or do you have the faith that only can get you through the fight with the little cat? Is your faith strong enough to handle life when it threatens your family, your lambs? 1 Peter 5, verse 8, we're told to be sober. We're told to be vigilant. We're told to be looking for our adversary, who is referred to as the devil, because he walketh about seeking whom he may devour. He's looking for those little ones that are not being watched. He's looking for those little ones who are not being sober. And the Bible says of that adversary, 1 Peter 5:9, resist in the faith. You see, Satan fears our faith because our faith opens up a portal to heaven where the Holy Spirit will fill us and empower us and give us the strength necessary to combat our greatest enemy. And our enemy is looking to devour our children, to devour our weak. He's looking to come in and take them. And you know who has to get engaged in that battle? It's not going to be the weak. It's not going to be the little ones. They don't have the faith necessary. It's got to be the mature shepherds of our homes and of our churches. We need to have the faith to get involved in that fight, to get our hands dirty, and to put our lives in danger for the sake of our little ones. Fathers, are your children facing addictions and problems sent from below? Mothers, are your children dealing with spirits that are troubling them? Perhaps the spirit of fear. We know God doesn't give that, but we knew Satan does. And there are things that our young people, as they grow up, will face and become addicted to. And you know what they need? They need moms and dads with faith in God to get their feet dirty, their hands dirty, and get involved in taking on that big cat. But that requires big cat faith. That requires no hesitancy. I didn't see David say, well, sheep, let's pray about this. Because you know, if I go down, the rest of you are free game for the wolves and the bear and the lion. So let's take some time and pray about it. There was no time. He had to engage immediately because lions, they kill by strangulation. They take something and they hold on to that neck until they're strangled. And David said, we've got to rescue that lamb out of the mouth of that lion. And so he did so immediately. That requires faith. I'll say this, moms and dads, you will not have time to increase your faith when crisis hits. You can't spend time in church for 5 years and spend time in your Word for 10 years to get ready for that moment. When it comes, you've got to be ready. David's faith was already there. It was already strong. He would already spent time with God. I'll say this about spouses as well. Husbands, are you watching life steal your wife? The woman you married one day, she's not that woman anymore because life has crippled her. It has changed her. Well, then get involved and help her. Not because of your abilities, but because of faith in God to empower you with the wisdom necessary. Ladies, are you watching the evil one seduce your husband? Are you watching the temptations of Satan weaken him? Husbands, are you watching life sucking the life out of your wife? You need, mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, big cat faith in a big God so that it will move you to action to resist an adversary bigger than you, stronger than you, and wiser than you. But I read in the epistle of 1 John, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. But you've got to have faith in that to unleash the power of God. The mighty in faith fear not the paw of the lion because they believe in the hand of God. The strong in faith will not be content watching Satan take any part of their life. The mighty in faith will not be content sitting back and giving one of their loved ones over to Satan. They will engage because they believe in a great God. And God will protect them. Take your Bibles to Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6. This third Bible character is perhaps the greatest of the three we're discussing today regarding their encounter with big cats. And I'll explain why I believe this is the most impressive of stories. But in Hebrews, Samson is referenced, David is referenced, and then the prophets are referenced. So we're going to talk about the prophet Daniel. When you think of lions, I'm sure you remember the story of Samson if you've been in church. You remember the story of David if you've been in church. But everybody should know about Daniel and the lion's den. That is a very, very familiar story. And in Daniel chapter 6, the prophet here has risen to political power. He has risen to great political power, but that, of course, earned him the consequences. Anybody who rises politically will face political attacks. And so his opponents pressured the king to pass this law that no one could pray to anyone for a month except to the king. David, of course, would not obey. He prays without any shame. The problem is the punishment was not some mere fine. The punishment was death by lion. That would be motivating, I suppose, if you've ever seen a lion. Daniel does not bow down to the political pressure. He is caught. He's arrested. The king is grieved because the king likes Daniel quite well. The king does everything he can to find a loophole. does not find a loophole. And in verse 16 of Daniel chapter 6, the king had to command, and so they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy God, whom thou servest continually, He will deliver thee. Those are the final words that Daniel would hear. In verse 17, a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. He was so burdened, he didn't sleep, he didn't listen to music, he didn't eat any food. He rose early in the next morning, verse 19. He went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Now, if I was Daniel, I would have waited a while. Or maybe moaned and groaned, Oh, king. Verse 21, then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. For as much as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. The king was exceeding glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found in him. Look at this next phrase. Because he believed in his God. You know, Daniel did not fall into a den of full lions, because we know they would eat the men who convicted and accused falsely Daniel in the passage here. He did not fall into a den of lions that were blind and deaf and couldn't see and hear Daniel. He didn't fall into a den of lions where lions didn't like the taste of Hebrew prophets. He didn't fall into the den of lions where it was just random chance or his abilities to get out. He didn't fight the lions. This wasn't Samson slewing a lion. This wasn't David grabbing him by the beard and killing him. This wasn't a man who had hand-to-hand combat experience. This wasn't a man who had lion whispering skills, who just said, sit. No, he fell into that den. He fell in a den with no experience with lions, with probably flabby arms like any pastor would have. He fell into that den of lions without anything but his faith in God. But because he believed in God, he envisioned not just the probability of his death, but the possibility that God would deliver him. Now, why I believe this is so impressive of a story is because of human nature. Samson, this young lion roars against him, and for a brief moment, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, we'll give him 90 at the most to do his thing and kill the lion. Then we've got David, who I'm guessing a few minutes to track down the lion, to get the lamb, and to work him over and beat him up. We'll give him a few minutes. But Daniel was thrown into a den of lions, plural, not one, and he was there the whole night. Not a moment of time. See, spiritual adrenaline can help you get through a brief crisis and get you through okay, but how about a long-standing trial? That's when your faith is going to be tested. When you have to sit inside a dark dungeon, knowing there's no way out, knowing there's no help coming, and you're surrounded by hungry lions, it's one thing that in 5 minutes you say, okay, God spared me for 5 minutes, but I know they're coming. 10 minutes. All right. Thank you, God, for giving me a few moments to think about my life. 15 minutes. Wow, God, you're really good, but let's get this over with. 2 hours. Most of us would die of a heart attack being in that situation. He lasts the whole night. Now, I don't know. We don't know what he's like, but I just envision him sitting very calmly, not focused on the lions, but focusing on God. And by the end of the night, see, he couldn't say in the middle of the night, yeah, God sent an angel to shut the lions' mouths. He couldn't say that until he was all done. So it'd be foolish for him to, could you imagine? Thanks, God, for he starts getting eaten alive. No, he's got to wait till he gets out of there to say, God has spared me. God has spared me. Now, this is impressive because when we go through trials of our faith, the hardest thing to endure is not the sorrow. It's not the pain. It's not the going without. It's time. It's this element of, God, when will you deliver me? When will you take this away from me? When we face big crises and problems in our life, we want God to take it away. We all do. But you know how quick we want God to take it away? Yesterday. Yesterday. And every day that God chooses not to deliver us and not to get those big cats out of our life, we begin to question the very goodness and character of God. We say, God, why won't you take it away? And we start to think, maybe God is not as loving as I gave him credit for. Maybe God is not as good as I gave him credit for. Maybe God is not as faithful as I gave him credit for, because I prayed 3 days ago that this would be gone by now, and it's not gone. You see, time has a way of chipping away at our faith. And I say a whole night in the darkness with multiple lions is a great accomplishment of faith, a bigger accomplishment than Samson and David. And see, Daniel was handicapped, or shall I say blessed, with the knowledge that he could not defend himself. David at least said, I'm used to this. Bring it on, animals. Samson could say, I'm a strong dude. I'll bring rage to you, lion. Daniel had to drop down and say, I don't know how to beat up a little snake. So he had to trust in somebody else, didn't he? So he had to muster all the faith up to face the big cats of his life. It requires great faith to eradicate great problems, but it requires greater faith to endure great problems. All of us can say, get rid of it, God. All of us can envision God taking away our sickness, taking away our problems, but how many of us say, God, just get us through life? How many of us say, God, I'll live the rest of my life with this illness, but I believe you will protect me, you will enable me, you will allow me by your grace and power to still prevail. How many of us do that? That's big cat faith. That's the faith to say, I am where I am, I have what I have, but God, you're good enough to get me through it. Endurance versus eradication. There is a difference. There is a difference. So how is your faith? How long could you stay in a den of lions, trusting God to protect you? The mighty in faith refuse to use the words never and always when referring to their big cats. Daniel didn't say, these lions will always be here. These lions will never go away. God will never bless me. God will never deliver me. He didn't say those words. That's the vocabulary of the faithless. The strong in faith are blessed with the patience necessary to wait for the deliverance of God. The strong in faith believe that God is not only able to deliver, but He is also able to protect while delaying deliverance. Did you get that? That's why it's so important to increase our faith. Now, what we're talking about here is not easily attained. Don't take because of my confident vocabulary, my bold speech, as though I assume all of us have this and should have this. Far from it. This is a very high level of faith that we should all be pursuing. Because I have found God doesn't take things away typically until we can endure those things, so as to create character and to produce greater faith. Big problems require big faith. Big teeth require big faith. Big claws require big faith. Little problems, they only require little faith. Little teeth, little faith. Little claws, little faith. So, what kind of faith do you have? The big faith, the little faith? The faith to handle the roaring of life or the meow of life? You and I need to increase our faith so we can get over in this category. What shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon and of Barak and of Samson and of Jephthah, of David also and Samuel and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions. Lord, increase our faith. Let's stand and have a word of prayer.